Yeah, so I'm not a fisheries expert, but I've been working in the coastal and marine program for many years now, actually for over 30 years. So I think I can consider myself an expert based on that experience, no? So I was given a wide remit in terms of what I should talk about, but they say talk about introduce fisheries management in the region. So this is what I'm going to give you a flavor of what is fisheries management for resilient seas in the East Asian Seas region, not just Southeast Asia, but East Asia and Southeast Asia. So a bit of a background, the East Asian Seas, we have 12 coastal nations and one landlocked country. It has four of the largest archipelagos of the world. It comprises the six large marine ecoregion from the East Asian Seas to the Yellow Sea, South China Sea, Indonesian Seas, Sulu Celebes Sea, and the Gulf of Thailand. It also has the five major river systems. And collectively, we have 235,000 kilometers of coastline, 7 million square kilometers of which comprises the sea area. As Dr. Francis Neat mentioned earlier, we are actually the global center of marine biodiversity, and the seas has many uses for us, no? Food supply, livelihood, medicine, energy, minerals, transportation, etc. Close to 72% of the estimated 2.13 billion people live within 100 kilometers of the coastline. And while we are all connected by seas, we are actually very diverse, socioeconomically, politically, culturally, and ecologically. So some more facts and figures on fisheries from the region. We are a global powerhouse in fisheries. We have the most, and fisheries in the region is the most, one of the most traded commodity, approximately US dollars 81.5 billion. This is from FAO. And we all know that it's a significant source of protein, particularly for many of our countries. Our production by subsector, we produce almost half of aquaculture. And I think the data on marine capture also is like almost 40% of production, but the data on inland capture fisheries may be a bit underestimated. This is what we could find at the moment. Top species group traded is tuna, followed by mollusks and crustaceans, and we have the seaweed also coming as a, not as a top four, but it's there. Massive source of employment. We've already heard about this earlier. Women make up 50% of jobs on average. This is on average because it varies country to country. And small-scale fisheries, we have over 80% of the workforce in Southeast Asia alone comprises small-scale fisheries. And as Dr. Neat mentioned earlier, there are many layers of these small-scale fisheries with subsistence, artisanal, and then small-scale, depending on the boat and gear that they use. Okay. Now, notwithstanding the potential or even the current economic growth that we experience with fisheries, there are significant pressures and challenges. And I think you are all aware of this. There is an alarming decline in coastal fishery resources across the region. And what Dr. Polly mentioned earlier, that we are fishing down the food chain, I think our countries are guilty about this. This is an old statistics, 2019, but approximately 79.6% of assessed fishery stocks in the Western Central Pacific were fished within biologically sustainable levels. And this requires continuous management. There are challenges, and there are many more challenges, but I'm just focusing on these three for the moment. Overfishing in certain areas, the need for better data collection in inland fisheries, and probably the Mekong River Commission experts are going to tell us about this, and of course the impact of climate change. Now, the problems are well known, particularly in our fisheries policy community. And the solutions are also not rocket science, no? So what in the region, I've seen in many of the documentation from many regional organizations, NGOs, and even from international development organizations, we need to ensure the sustainability of fisheries in the East Asian seas. And this involves transitioning to blue economy. This is what we've heard from many of ADB, World Bank, bilateral organizations, international development programs, NGOs, even researchers have mentioned this, that we need to balance economic growth with environmental health. And I should add also social resilience. And the key trends in terms of solutions that we find moving forward is really focusing on technology. And when I say technology, not just technologies that we import from other countries, but also local technologies. Strengthening local and regional governance and addressing the impacts of climate change. So broken down into specifics, we have technological innovation and data transparency. Many countries are not at all at the same level, but I'm just looking at the top tier, for example, that what we could aspire for, or what are the current practices, or what we would consider as best practices. So modern management is increasingly anchored on big data to track seafood from harvest to market. Traceability systems, use of blockchain QR codes and RFID are increasingly used, particularly in large corporations. There's digital monitoring that's being encouraged, and if you participate in regional fisheries management organization, there is reporting required on electronic catch documentation. There are also, I think, I'm not sure if the Global Fishing Watch representative is here, but they are also a big advocate of real-time satellite tracking. And this is important for this particular workshop because it helps monitor fishing efforts to reduce IUU fishing. There's been some use of smart sea farming also, deployment of sensors and automated equipment in aquaculture to limit pollution and disease while improving efficiency. So these are some of the best practices on technological innovation and data transparency that we experience in the region. The governance models are also evolving. I'm not sure if my area-based management approaches is quite clear, but we see a shift in terms of isolated national policies where you look at sectors to more integrated and collaborative frameworks. There is a big push for the whole of government approach. Of course, it's still work in progress, but we are working towards that. Ecosystem approach fisheries management is moving beyond managing single species to protecting entire ecosystems and habitats, including people. This is actually ironic because before, we have been doing this, intertrophic cultivation, but with the onset of aquaculture, we focus on specific fishes, fisheries, and now we're going back to this ecosystems approach to fisheries management. Marine protected areas with the 30 by 30 target that countries have committed to is also on the spotlight. We're scaling up of marine protected areas to include no-take zones to allow fish populations to grow has been also in the government agenda. Whether we make it to the 30% in 2030, I'm not sure, but we're working towards that. And in PEMC, we are a big proponent of the integrated coastal management. We've seen that it's a proven technology, and many of your countries have actually applied integrated coastal management. And what we're trying to do is to extend this integrated coastal management to apply marine spatial planning and integrate it with ecosystems-based fisheries management. We're doing this through consolidated and coherent manual and training, because now we have, one organization training on MSP, another organization training on ICM, and then the fisheries-related organization also going for EAFM. What we're trying to do is put this in one training material, putting fisheries experts, biologists, and also urban planners together in one room, because the principles are actually the same as what Professor Neat mentioned. This is interdisciplinary. We are looking at integrated approaches, and stakeholder inclusion is quite important. So the basic principles are the same, and there are just slight, not really slight, there are some variations when you go sector by sector. And still, it's easier to go and do trainings on a sectoral basis, but I think with our problems that are interconnected, we need to really look at a systems approach, or what we call integrated management approach. Climate resilience and energy transition is also key for us. As what I mentioned, fisheries solutions are adapting to triple planetary crisis of looking at the impacts of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. There are many best practices of climate smart practices also, where they are developing aquaculture and capture methods that can withstand rising sea temperatures and extreme weather. We have some good examples from China, and I think even in Thailand, and increasingly in Vietnam. Decarbonization, reducing the sector's carbon footprint is relatively new, and these are adopted more in Korea, Japan, and China, but soon it will be also be introduced, or about to be introduced through IMO projects, technical assistance, to adopt hybrid propulsion systems and optimizing hull designs. Ocean-based renewable energy, we're still not there, but that is the way to go. Waste management initiatives, like in the case of IUU, global ghost gear initiatives aim to eliminate non-biodegradable ghost nets that continue to kill marine life. There is also a glow litter project in many countries. How many of you are familiar with the glow litter project of IMO? Yeah. The countries, no? You have okay, good, in Thailand. There's actually glow litter project in Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia. Yeah. Okay. Market-driven sustainability. Of course, markets are important, and so certification and eco-labels are still very important. In the region, we have movement towards this certification, but it is not quite mainstream yet. I mean, there are good examples in Indonesia and Thailand, but not so much. But there are good practices that and then we could aspire to also go for certification later. But then there are sustainable value chains. There are good examples in Indonesia that I'm aware of as well. Okay. And most importantly, and I think this was emphasized also this morning, social equity and gender inclusion. Dr. Neat, your presentation did not include women and gender. So I think gender mainstreaming is actually a big deal globally and also in the region, where women are involved in fisheries governance and value chains. And small-scale fisher rights, protecting tenure rights for artisanal fishers against competition from larger industrial or tourism interests. I added youth empowerment because in the fisheries sector, there's less and less young people who are going into fishing nowadays. They prefer to come to the urban centers and areas. So there's nobody wants to be a fisherman anymore. So we need to empower. But the irony is, well, I don't know in other countries, but in the Philippines, there's an increase of interest in marine biology, coastal resilience, climate change, but the actual fishing, we don't have that much people. I mean, there are some, but they want to go abroad. They want to fish in Scotland. They want to go to Norway instead of fishing in the Philippines. And I think probably it's a reflection also of the state of fisheries in these countries, because we import a lot of fisheries now in the Philippines, which is probably our CIFDEC colleague can tell us more why this is a phenomenon. But I know in Korea, you also have problems, right? Attracting young people to stay in the islands. So youth empowerment or early career professionals is also important. Okay, so beyond the 3 or 4 regional SEAS organization and regional organizations in the East Asian SEAS region, we have a number. We have the ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, who's focused on biodiversity and coastal resilience, and also looking at the network of protected areas. We have the Arafura Timor Seas project. Arafura Timor Seas comprises of Australia, Indonesia, Timor-Leste, and Papua New Guinea. And they have a big program funded by Australia on anti-IUU. COBSI, they work on policies in terms of not just fishing, but coastal and marine policies as well. So they do a lot of technical assistance to countries to help with, for example, now on the BBNJ ratification. Port State Measure at some point also they were helping. They were doing some technical assistance. Coral Triangle Initiative, they work on marine protected areas, climate change, and fisheries management as well. IUCN Asia Pacific, they have their green list, IUCN green list, to increase, scale up marine protected areas, among others. Westpac, of course, PEMC, CIFDEC is here, and World Fish. World Fish is focused on aquaculture. So these regional organizations are working on combating IUU fishing, particularly at sea. And I forgot RPOA IUU. It should be here as well. Adopting regional policies. This is PEMC, COBSI, ACB. Regional cooperation. We do have cooperation on not just on fisheries management, but also on coastal and marine. Ecosystems approach to fisheries management. I think CIFDEC is big on this. Sustainable aquaculture, World Fish, reducing bycatch and waste. I think there's a combination of many organizations doing this via projects and grants. Blue economy integration, implementing the ASEAN Blue Economy Framework is important. This is also one of our Bibles in terms of moving forward. So we adopt one lens on blue economy. And ADB, we will be PEMC, COBSI, UNEP, UNDP will be working with ADB on the blue SMEs. There's been a search for like high impact investments on sustainable fisheries. And we haven't found a good one. I mean, there's always just two pilots. And the thing is, we were approaching the problem in wrongly. We have to look at what do we have? What is the resource that we have in the region? 80% is SMEs. So we should be focused on how we could harness this potential of blue SMEs. And of course, implementing global guidelines for securing sustainable small-scale fisheries. So there are many players in the region. There could be some replication and overlaps on some of the mandates, but we are trying to rationalize that so that we don't trip over each other and waste resources. So just a word about PEMC. I did not introduce this at the beginning. So our work is to foster and sustain healthy and resilient coast and ocean, communities and economies across the seas of East Asia through integrated management solutions, which I think mirror systems thinking, and strategic partnerships. So we have 11 country partners, including North Korea, North and South is present there. So our focal point in the RO Korea is Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. We have non-country partners, and you can see KMI is one of our active non-country partners. So these are a combination of technical experts, trade institutes working on maritime with IPICA and OSRL there. And then we have UNEP and UN organizations also helping us and helping countries because we don't have the monopoly of knowledge. No, we need partners and collaborators. While Thailand, Malaysia, and Brunei are not our members, they are active partners in some projects. And we have the JEF. We are funded by JEF UNDP. They are a major funder. UNOPS, we work with UNOPS on specific project. IMO, of course, ASEAN, and the World Bank Group. So thank you.